All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast, talking the NFL draft. Join me today to break it all down. The host of the Sharp Cheddar podcast, Joe D'Alizio is here. Joe, how are you?
Mike, I'm doing well. If I knew you wanted to do Zoom, I would have done my hair a little bit. I look a little disheveled, but it's always a pleasure to be on the Just End the Suffering podcast. So thanks again.
No problem, man. You're looking sharp. No, in my book anyway.
Looking sharp. I like what you did there.
Yeah, I had to get that plug in there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I gotta say, we talked to you last year for the NFL draft. It was the Zoom draft. We were in Goodell's basement. This year, we're back to in person in Cleveland. So, what do you think getting back to more normal than we were last year?
Yeah, you know what? I thought it was nice that there was a crowd, right? We are slowly but surely going back to normal. I can't say we're there yet, obviously, but there's always something about a sporting event or any event when there's people there and you see all the different fan bases and everybody cheering. The one thing that I thought was really corny, though, I don't know about you, Mike, the whole Roger Goodell sit in the chair.
Yeah.
I mean, not for nothing. That chair did not look good on that stage. It looked good in his basement. It didn't belong on that stage, though.
No, they took the exact wrong message out of the last year's draft where we like Goodell because he was being, like old dad Roger, who was just so, just chilling out. Like putting the couch on a big stage in front of 55,000 people, having one person sitting in it does not a good look.
No, it didn't look good. And the thing that was weird about it just didn't belong, right? Like you have this huge mega set that was built for the draft and the tech, and then you have this random old looking couch seat. To me, it looked so strange. It belongs in his basement or his man cave, whatever you want to call it. It did not belong on the stage in Cleveland.
No, it didn't. And I mean, they were trying to redo the magic. They had the bit where he sat in the chair and had the M&Ms next to the pick. I'm like, it looks so wrong. And like this giant cavernous space, I'm sitting in one easy chair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it would have been just better if, here's where I think they try to reinvent the wheel sometimes, and they loved it last year, but last year it made sense and it fit the scene and it fit the mood. This year would have been better to just come up there and stand beside Roger Goodell and just say it at the podium.
Yeah, or they have a separate set with the chair. It's not on the giant stage.
Correct. You have a different backdrop. You have some sort of like a living room setting. I don't know. I think they just tried a little too hard when it came to that.
Yeah, I have the better idea for it. It's like we put the chair in the green room, then have whoever is getting picked just sit in the chair before they go see Roger.
That would make a little bit more sense.
Yep.
But again, still,
Yep.
You're so stuck on the chair. Move on.
Yeah, let's move on. I mean, talk about the two locals first. The Jets, I think, had a very good draft in terms of, obviously, we knew they're getting Zach Wilson. They get the supporting cast around him. They take some shots on defense later. But you know what the Jets did?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did an excellent job here, right? So, like you mentioned, they get Zach Wilson, who's hopefully going to be their franchise quarterback, the missing piece there, right? Not only do they get Zach Wilson, though, they also add some support, right? They get some protection on the offensive line. They also end up getting Elijah Moore, who's another weapon for Wilson, which getting Elijah Moore where they did, I think was a steal, right? And he can make an impact player. So now you add Elijah Moore with the additions that they've made in this offseason, and Zach Wilson has a little something with him now.
Yeah, he absolutely does. I also love the pick of Michael Carter in the fourth round, too. Give them another option in that backfield because this is a group that does not need a ton of star power. And with the way the scheme is, the LaFleur system, how it works with the zone block. And they don't need, you have your bell cow back. They add another quality runner to that mix. I think that helps, too.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think the important thing was there that they definitely were able to not only get their hopeful franchise quarterback, but they also they were smart enough to say, we're not just going to give them, the sexy players around him, right? The impact players. Let's get him a good offensive lineman and let's protect him. Because with that, it doesn't matter who you are in the NFL, if you don't have time to throw the ball, you're not going to be good.
Yeah, you're not. So let's shift to the Giants for a minute too. Daigle and Shaka will actually be willing to trade back in this draft. He does it twice. He gets a couple of extra picks next year. They get Kadarius Toney first round, Azeez Ojulari second round. What do you think of what the Giants ended up doing in Cleveland this week?
Yeah, like you mentioned, shock the world with Gettleman trading out, and I didn't expect that. But it was a smart thing to do, setting themselves up for next season as well and getting some more picks. Right? I thought we would have saw a lot more teams moving out of this year's first round or finagling a little bit to add on more picks for next year's draft just because of the lack of tape, because of the circumstances with this year's draft class. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to these guys. The Tony pick, I wasn't crazy about it. All right. I wasn't crazy about it. I think, do they need weapons for Daniel Jones? Yes. But at the same time, you just signed someone like Kenny Galladay, right? And if he could stay on the field, Kenny Galladay, Evan Ingram, if he could get it together, Shepard, Slayton, it's pretty solid there. If I were the Giants, I probably would have really focused more on that offensive line early on. I would have probably addressed that with my first round pick. But I think they made up for that by snagging the linebacker there in the second round.
Yeah, in terms of the Tony pick, I like the idea. I like the guy adding speed to this offense, but I just don't trust Jason Garrett to correctly utilize this player.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, how is he going to fit in that offensive scheme, right? I think Daniel Jones at this point with Kenny Galladay and the other guys that I just mentioned should have enough to show what he can and cannot do, right? So with that being said, protect the guy, right? Saquon Barkley coming back. Protect Saquon Barkley. Open up some holes for him.
Yeah, they were a little lazy with the offensive line. They didn't take one in the draft. I think that hurts them a bit. But I want to talk about some of the other big moves in this draft, including we knew the Cards going 1, 2, 3. The landing spots, you got Landry. We got Justin Fields, going to the Chicago Bears. We have Mac Jones laying in New England. You look at the fits of those two guys.
Yeah, so the Fields deal, I think Chicago did the right thing. They've been in quarterback abyss, and for how long now? They haven't had a franchise quarterback. They thought it was Mitch. It clearly isn't Mitch. So they think that that Fields is their guy. They made a play to get up and get him. And now I think if it works out for him, Chicago is setting themselves up for future success for sure. As for Mac Jones, I mean, it's the Patriots. It's Bill Belichick. Mac Jones is a smart quarterback. He's definitely going to give Cam Newton a run for his money when it comes to that starting position. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you have Mac Jones and Fields both starting midway through the season.
I think that both of them starting too. I just think the thing that annoys me with Mac Jones, like you look at the tape, you look at what he is, and like, yeah, he's a fine player. He has a solid like floor as an NFL quarterback, but like just because he fell in New England, everyone's like, oh, New England did it again. They know what they're doing. They had the greatest thing ever. Like, whereas let's say, give me a team. Let's say the Vikings pick Mac Jones. It was screaming bloody murder if they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't need a quarterback, so on and so forth.
No, I think you have a point there that whenever a quarterback ends up going to New England, all right, every single one of Tom Brady's backups was going to be, the next big thing. This could end up being a terrible move. I think it's the right decision, though, investing early in a guy that you think could be your future rather than settling for the traditional fourth round, third round guy that, will eventually be the person taking over.
Yeah, let's get some highlights here. Who are some of your top picks in the first round? Who are some teams you think nailed this?
Overall, some teams that nailed it, the Dolphins. All right, they're up there for me. I love the fact that they bring back Waddle with Tua, former teammates. I think that was a smart move. You now have Waddle, Will Fuller there. Tua has the options, right? He has weapons around him. And then I think they did a good job by also adding Eckenberg, who's going to be a starter immediately to help protect Tua, right? Not only are you getting weapons for him, but you're also protecting him. They definitely, all of their picks hit not only quality, but need. So I thought the Dolphins had a real good draft. I thought Cleveland had a really good draft, right? They filled immediate needs at corner, at linebacker in those first two rounds, and they got plenty of depth throughout the draft. And really Chicago too, right? I think you're nothing in this league without a quarterback, right? And Chicago is almost there, even though it doesn't seem like it. But if they could figure out the quarterback position, they're going to be a problem in the NFC North, especially with who knows what's going to happen with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. So again, similar to what the Dolphins did outside of drafting a quarterback, right? The Chicago Bears get their quarterback, they protect them in getting a guy like Tevin Jenkins. I really like those three teams the most.
Yeah, I think one that jumps out to me too. I think Detroit had a very good draft, like sort of building up that style that Dan Campbell wants, not like all the toughness, all the building of the trenches, getting Sewell at the first pick, getting the Levi, like the line, Amu Creasy, I think, from Washington the second round, like building the trends, getting some physicality on that team. I think they did a good job sort of attacking their needs.
Yeah, I think Minnesota did a good job too attacking their needs. You know what? A lot of teams this year I thought had really good drafts overall, filling needs and based on what based on that criteria. Now, what is that? We won't know until 3 years from now what worked out. That's the funny thing about the draft, which you laugh about. Oh, this team gets an A, this team gets an F, this team gets a D for their draft class. But in reality, I mean, it's a crapshoot. Flip a coin.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, I'm looking at some of these. I was watching the draft, like a lot of these picks, like, oh, these make sense. Like I can get it. There were a few though. I was like, I don't know what you're doing here. I think the Raiders were at the top of that list, especially the first round, taking Alex Weatherwood, who I don't know if you're watching the ESPN feed, the NFL Network feed, but ESPN, like they cut to Mel Kiper. Mel's jaw was like on the floor when that pick was made.
Yeah, that they reached there, and I don't know what the heck happened with them later in the draft, going safety happy. I'm pretty sure they drafted 3 safeties.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Mayock and Gruden are doing out in Vegas. Maybe that Vegas scene is getting to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand what they were doing in the draft. It made no sense. And one of the picks that sort of baffled my mind when it was made was the Jaguars taking Travis Etienne at the end of the first round, because they already had a guy who ran for 1,000 yards last year, and undrafted running back James Robinson. They assigned Carlos Hyde in free agency. And I mean, Urban Meyer said he's the third down back, which is a very bad allocation of resources. And you're a team that's 1 in 15, had so many holes on it.
Mike, you are totally right. And that was the next thing I was going to mention.
Yeah.
He completely botched that. Did you forget about James Robinson? I mean, come on. How you end up getting back in the first round. You could definitely fill another hole, and you didn't do it. That was an enormous mistake for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like if you have property and like you have a house that's falling apart, and let's say you have a solid, like you have a Chevy in the car. It's not bad. You say, you know what, I'm not gonna fix my room. I'm gonna buy the Porsche instead. No, I already have a Chevy.
Yeah, no, it didn't make sense. Did they trade back in, or was that their original pick?
That was their second pick. The one they got from the Rams in the Jalen Ramsey trade.
Okay. So I apologize for that, but it didn't make sense. If James Robinson had a terrible year and they struggled running the ball, it makes sense, right? But you just added, their teammate. They were teammates in Clemson, but again, so many more needs. And I think the most important thing is drafting for need.
Yeah, I think for sure. Like you could add a piece of offensive line, give Trevor Lawrence better protection. Like having a guy who your coach said, hey, he's the third down running back. That's a big waste of your resource when you're that bad. It's not like
huge waste.
Yeah.
Huge. And, a pick like that changes what people think of your overall draft, right? Because if they fill a need with that position, rather than going running back, people are looking at that completely different instead of one of the worst picks in the first round.
Yeah. I also wonder if the Giants pick, I wonder if instead of Kadarius Toney, they take Rashad Bateman, for instance, more polished receiver. That's a better look there.
I think that may be a better fit for Jason Garrett's offense. Time will tell, though. I have that actually for the Ravens as one of the better picks of the first round. I mean, they get some wide receiver support, which they have Marquise Brown, but it's hit or miss. He either has a great game or he does absolutely nothing, and there's no one in between. And I think Bateman could come in and be that everyday guy.
Yeah, so one of the things that confused me when I was watching the draft was like the Colts' complete lack of effort to find an offensive tackle, and then I think Costanzo retired left tackle, and you're trying to protect Carson Wentz. They take 0 tackles in a draft that was loaded with them. They just loaded up on edge guys first, and then they were adding other needs. And like, I know that I talked to Colts fans, some of them were saying, hey, like we have good offensive line development. Like, should you take one and give yourself a chance here to fill this hole internally?
Yeah, you probably should because if you never know with the offensive lineman, you could find one in the third or fourth round, and they could be with you for 5, 6 years, even more, maybe 10 years. So you're pretty right. Maybe it's just the omen of Carson Wentz never having an offensive line to protect them.
Yeah. Also, Sam Darnold had that as well because I thought they're going to take Rashawn Slater at number 8, and then they take J.C. Horn instead. I'm sure Sam's getting there like, come on, can't I get a left tackle ever?
Also, speaking of Carson Wentz, his former team, the Eagles, I thought they did a good job trading up and snagging Devontae Smith. Another similar situation. Jalen Hurts reunited with his former teammate, fills an immediate huge need for that team who didn't really have a real number one wide receiver.
I also thought it was interesting. I don't know if you saw the video from the Eagle draft room where Howie Rose is going around fist like high fiving everybody after to make the pick. He goes to his scout director. Was like, I don't want to do this because you could tell he was disgusted with the pick. So I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, I thought it was actually interesting that the Eagles and the Cowboys made a trade.
Yeah.
I did not expect that.
No, I thought I mean, I get to the transform. I spoke to Troy Moriello, Cowboy fan here. He thinks part of it is like the Cowboys, once all their corners went and they said, okay, we're not going to get one. They knew that Devontae Smith was going to go to one of these next two teams. We're going to steer him to Philly, who's further away than the Giants are.
Yeah, and speaking of the Cowboys, I think they had a questionable draft, which we'll be able to have a better understanding a few years from now. But they took a few risks there, taking some guys with some questionable, past records, as well as a guy Micah Parsons who could be a stud, but also who knows what you're going to get out of him since he hasn't played in a while.
Yeah, they're not afraid of the character issues, those Cowboys.
That's definitely for sure. Jerry Jones does not care one bit.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting pick for sure. I think we hit on pretty much a pretty good range of stories here. I mean, I also one other team out there. I know they didn't have picks because they trade them all away for things, but the Texans, what are you doing? Like your first pick of the board and you take a quarterback there in the third round when you have so many needs on a bad team. I know the Watson situation stinks, but you have so many problems.
I thought the Texans' lack of picks and also Seahawks' lack of picks, their drafts were pretty much irrelevant. The Texans, I mean, yeah, you go with David Mills at quarterback, who's definitely a project. I mean, I get it just in case if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, but Mills is going to be starting if Deshaun Watson doesn't play or it gets traded. So, yeah, that did not make any sense to me.
Yeah, we haven't talked about your team. We're going to do that in a minute. We're going to the fan forum for that. So I know you have a lot to say. So we'll go there now. Is that cool with you?
Let's do it.